Hello.
Hi, welcome. Well, for those who are viewing, welcome to our Borough meeting for June 7th. The official meeting will begin at 7 o'clock or thereabout, but beforehand, we have 3 more interviews for the Human Relations Commission tonight. And so Mr. Esco has already joined us for the first of those interviews. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to the chair of our DEI committee, Ms. Scales, to ask some questions.
There, I've unmuted myself. Hi there. Thank you so much for applying to the Human Relations Commission, Paul, and thank you so much for your continued service and participation in our community.
Well, you're welcome.
Before I get into asking any sort of questions, is there anything that you want to share with us before I dive right into asking you questions?
No, this is my second opportunity to join some committee, so we'll see how this goes. But I looked up on Swissville's site to see if there was any kind of write-up about what this actually entails. I never got an email from anybody saying, yeah, this is what we're looking for, this is our objective, this is what we want to do. So maybe you could do a quick 1, 2, 3 and then ask all your questions.
Absolutely. And I'm going to be I've been consistent, Paul, with the questions with every applicant for this opportunity. So I just want to reassure you that you're going to get the same questions. The Human Relations Commission is born from out of the anti-discrimination ordinance that we passed. As an additional aspect of the anti-discrimination ordinance, we also included a local Human Relations Commission. So not everyone can afford an attorney or go to court, but we wanted to provide some type of redress and some type of help locally right here in the Borough of Swissville. So the Human Relations Commission, based upon our ordinance, and our ordinance, if you go on our website, you're able to pull up that ordinance, the anti-discrimination ordinance.
Oh, okay.
And it spells out the details of the Human Relations Commission as well. So the Human Relations Commission it's something like a committee, but not. It is different. So the Human Relations Commission has the opportunity to mediate claims that arise under the anti-discrimination ordinance, or if it's determined that a violation of our ordinance has taken place, our Human Relations Commission can issue a fine. That fine, however, cannot exceed more than $500. So the work of our Human Relations Commission is really important. The individuals who are selected and appointed, they will be the initial 5 that helps get this commission off the ground. So you guys would be literally starting this from the ground up. But it has to be in compliance with our ordinance. So the ordinance actually says what the Human Relations Commission can and cannot do, and also what you're actually overseeing. So one question that I have for you is, Paul, what made you apply for this role? Why do you want this job?
Well, like I said, I was turned down for the last committee that I applied for. So they suggested, hey, this one is coming up, why don't you apply for that? So I've been living here in Swissville now for 40 some years. I've seen some good changes, seen some bad changes. So I think, of course, I've been around a long time too. So I have probably the wisdom that probably most people may or may not have. I'm pretty well educated as well. And I see what's going on in the neighborhood, and I make comments about that. I'd rather go to a council meeting that there was live people, but we can deal with this for a while.
Okay. And Paul, what is your approach to problem solving? And give us an example where your approach has been effective.
Well, I'm a former computer programmer and a former technical writer. So everything has to be, in my mind, flow charted. One step leads to another. You're working with several $1 million projects. You cannot afford to make a mistake. So you have to search every nuance and come up with the result you need. And need be, you can change it and make it better, or find if you have a fault somewhere, you can make that better. So in that respect, I mean, I'm a wood turner, I build things, so everything has to be exact, if you know what I mean. Measurements, angles, everything. So some of my relatives, I'm teaching them how to do that, because if you're not exact, it just doesn't work out for you. So I'm very exact.
Thank you. What experience do you have interpreting policy and disseminating guidelines and developing procedures for others?
Well, let's see. I was also a teacher. I taught adult basic education. I was also a test administrator for the Allegheny County Jail. I worked in the jail system as a consultant and a teacher. So in that respect, I've done a lot of things around that area in my last 20, 30, 40 years of work.
Okay. What do you do when others resist or reject your ideas or your actions?
Well, I'm sure it happens to everybody. I think you got to be able to just take a break and say, let's think about this further, and come back when people have a clear mind and a clear head. And then it still might not work out, but at least you give it a shot. There's always three sides to a story, right? Yours, mine, and in between. So the in-between part is the one you have to solve.
Okay. Give me an example of a time when you had to deal with a difficult colleague. How did you handle this?
Well, I guess you have to learn when to walk away and come back later and say, what's up? You know, why did you say that? Or why did you do that? Or what could we do to make it better? And of course, I would also suggest that there'd be a third person in the room, maybe even a fourth. So there's always somebody listening to what you said, and the other person can't say, well, he said that or she said that, because you have a witness right there. So I would always have somebody around if I had a conflict that wouldn't be handled. Pretty much the way the attorneys do it or police officers do it now. So
Thank you. And in regards to the Human Relations Commission, what do you think is best in terms of how it is managed? You think that it should be a Human Relations Commission that is business oriented, or one that is focused on unifying the community?
no, you can't involve businesses. Businesses are out there to make a profit. The community is interested in how each of us act in the community and relate to each other and what we can do for the community. I do a lot with nextdoor.com as far as writing things up for community-based businesses, and I always promote those businesses. So in this particular community, there's a lot of things going on that people don't really know about, you know, and you try to bring that to the attention of other people. And I've had several hundred hits on talking about like Dairy Delight, or talking about something else, you know, Bombay to, you know, Bombay is a new Indian restaurant, and promoted that. And I always visit what I promote. So I want other people to do that too. We got to keep the funds and the people in Swissville, and have people coming through Swissville to enjoy Swissville. So that's what I would do. And that's what I do.
Thank you. Now, Paul, you are a committee member and disagree with a point or decision. How will you respond?
If I would agree or disagree with a decision?
Yes, you disagree with a point or a decision that's been made by your fellow commission members.
Mm-hmm.
How will you respond?
If I was really staunch in what I thought, I'd probably go nose to nose and say why. If not, I'd say, why don't we talk about this and have a vote on it? And if there's going to be 5 people on a committee, which, you know, and 3 people said it's okay, then we'll go with that. But if disagreement arises, hey, write it out. You know, why? You know, give me your points. I'll give you my points of why I like this better than what you'd come up with.
Thank you very much, Paul, for your honesty. And thank you so much for applying for this position. We greatly appreciate it. Did you want to share anything else about yourself before we close out your interview?
No, some people on your staff there, they know who I am. You know, I'm an ex-veteran, and I support the flag, of course, and everything surrounding it. So that's the kind of person I am. And my neighborhood, I think you know where I live, by the school. And now we have the police at the end of the, you know, street here. So I know a few of the police, and I know the chief. Is the chief there today?
He's not on here yet.
Oh,
but
okay.
He will be.
Oh, that's right. It's too early for him, right? I get a donut. So yeah, I went through the course down there that he had for adults, you know, for police, and it was interesting, and I'd like to see a lot more happening. What about with the fire? Yeah, I'd like to be a fireman for a minute or two. Why not? All kids grow up and want to be a fireman. But I think there's a lot can be done with this community. I know I put a report in 3 years ago about improving the corner down there on Church Street. That didn't go much further than okay. But there's a lot of things can be done here in Swissville. I mean, look at how many thousands of people drive through Swissville. Some of them heard of the Triangle Bar, but have you ever been there? Yeah, I've heard of it. Well, what about Bush Brothers? You get your tires there, you know. How about Dairy Delight? Did you know that Chelsea's ice cream has more cream in it than Dairy Queen? Did you know that? And so there's a lot of things happening in Swissville. It should be brought up and reroute the traffic coming through Kennywood to downtown. If we have a downtown Swissville, and say, hey, stop here, stop there. And we should have signing about that as well. So it's just not a breeze through our town. And of course, you can see people breeze through our main street here don't know much about Swissville. And now we have the new project going down at the end of the street there, and I'm not sure what's going down on the river. I think it's going to be some kind of complex too. So who's writing that information about, what's going on in Swissville? I don't see much of that being done. And that's what I would like to do.
Thank you so much, Paul. Have a great evening.
Okay, and you too. And maybe we'll see you again. Maybe we won't. So take care.
You'll definitely see me again. I'm one of your neighbors.
What part? Where do you live?
I'm right here off of Monongahela.
Oh, well, I'm up on Evans Street. So, yeah, well, stop up anytime. You're always welcome.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
You have a safe day and have a nice weekend.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for your interest and your time tonight. Miss Jamie York is our next candidate. She is in the waiting room and is being brought in right now. So Miss Scales, once she's in, you can feel free to ask her the questions as well.
Okay. Hi, Jamie. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Oh, I don't think you're connected to the audio.
Yes, you pronounced my name correctly.
Perfect. Thank you so much for applying to our Human Relations Commission. My name is Weldy Ann Scales. I am the chair of our DEI committee and the vice president of council. These other figures you see on the screen, these are my fellow council mates and our mayor, Denise Schwartzwelder, and Sarah Ansel, that helps me with all things that I need, and everybody else. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for applying to help our borough, and specifically for the Human Relations Commission. So what made you apply for this role? Why do you want this job?
When I seen the advertisement for it, I said, wow, this is an opportunity to do something for the community that I've lived in here now since 2017. I really do love Swissville. But I think that especially when it comes to like a human relations commission, I think everybody should be able to give their input. And I think that as someone who hasn't lived here for like 20, 30 years can give a different side of insight for, what I think is Swissville and where I think it's going in the future and where it's been at in the past. So I just looked at this as a good opportunity to, not only voice my opinions, but help voice opinions of other people that may not feel heard.
Thank you so much. And Jamie, what is your approach to problem solving? And give us an example of where your approach has been effective.
Great question. So in my professional work of being a business analyst, product manager, working in technology, there's always problems. As much as we like to say that we have the best technology, especially, as human beings, that it's a machine, it's technology, things go wrong. I think the most important part of problem solving and my strategy for that is understanding the problem, understanding the root cause of it. Like when you could go back to the genesis of a problem, it helps you get on that path of finding that solution and coming up with resolution. Getting everybody that's involved that way, again, like I said at the beginning, making sure that their voice is heard and then coming to a good compromise that leads to good problem solving. And I've done that in my line of work several times. A lot of times, if there's a system failure or a product failure, customers are upset. You have to understand whether it was on the system side, the company side, or if it was, a lot of times what it is, customer, rooted. And you just want to give some education, find out what the solution could be, and then try to, implement that.
Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure our fellow councilmate, Mr. Josh Miser, can agree with you on a couple of those points. He's also in the tech field, and his expertise in that area has helped us in so many ways. So I know for one that skill is something that could be really, really, really helpful to the commission, along with your problem solving skills. What experience do you have with interpreting policy and disseminating guidelines and developing procedures for others?
Yes. So early in my career, I started off in healthcare. I used to be a certified medical coder. Anything in healthcare is based off of policies. So I'm abreast of reading up on those policies, seeing where those policies stem from, and seeing where they could be updated, as well as just ensuring that that policy still makes sense. A policy from 20 years ago in healthcare probably wouldn't make sense, just like a policy in technology from 20 years ago wouldn't make sense. So it's that same mind frame of just that review of it and making sure that it's up to date, but making sure that it's still keeping with that compliance of that policy, because that's the reason why we have policy and procedures in every industry. It's under regulations and for compliance. So you just want to make sure that you're upkeeping what needs to be done, like good business practices.
Thank you. And what do you do when others resist or reject your ideas or actions?
Also a good question. I think my personality, I don't think that I'm always right and I'm always open to other individuals' points of views. I think that's important. That also helps out with problem solving. But if it's something that you have to be a stickler for because it's, again, like a policy or a procedure, you just want to try to steer that person's thinking back to understanding that everywhere we have rules, that's what helps society stays in line. So if it comes down to where it's a matter of opinion, you just try to find common ground and try to compromise. But or if it's a rule, you just want to enact that, hey, like this is a rule, we have to follow that. That's what it is. And most people turn around and say, you know what, that's true. And they respect you for that, for just being upfront and saying, hey, it's nothing personal. This is what the rule is. And, we just have to follow this guideline. And then if not, you just try to help them understand, like, okay, you can have your opinion, you could be upset, but the rules are still the rules.
And give us an example of a time when you had to deal with a difficult colleague, and how did you handle this?
Hmm. I think working in healthcare and technology, especially working with customers or AKA patients, you come across people who are unhappy either with service or life. And a lot of times there's not anything that anyone else can do about that. That's their mind frame. So, what I like to do in those situations is still stay positive. I do believe that you can kill someone with kindness. Like, no matter how much they're being upset with you, no matter how much they're screaming or yelling, if you stay calm, eventually that person will calm down. As long as you keep yourself calm, they have no choice but to calm down because they're the only one screaming and yelling. And after a while, they realize that, okay, I'm just exhausting myself. And as long as you keep that firm stance of that stoicness of, okay, I understand that you're upset. I understand, but we cannot start solving the problem until you calm down. You just keep repeating that until they finally, relent and say, okay. And then that's when you can get some leeway.
Thank you. I've seen Councilman Ansel use that technique on many occasions.
Yeah,
It works.
it does.
To you, which do you think is best? A commission that is, business oriented and, an efficient business like manner, or one that's more geared toward community unification and engagement and involvement?
Hmm. I want to say it has to be a little bit of equally of both, because if you just make it out for the community, it could end up being a free for all where, it's not really structured. But then you can't have it 100% business and machine like, because then that's not really accommodating to human people. everybody wants to feel that, that they have a sense of community. No one wants to feel like we're living in like a dystopia where, it's like, oh, you just must follow the rules. We don't care about your opinions. I think a commission has to have a good level of both. That way people feel satisfied that, okay, I'm not going to be able to get all of my way, but at least, they're listening and I can see progress. I think it stems back to it's a term within like lean when you're doing sometimes software development and like in it comes from manufacturing where it's the 80-20 rule, where if you can convince the people that, hey, you can't get 100% of what you want, but at least if I can get you towards that 80, would you be happy with that? And the majority of people are satisfied with that, and I consider that a good compromise.
Now, let's say you are a committee member on the commission and one of your fellow members either disagree with you on a point or decision. How will you respond?
I would ask questions. That way I could fully understand their stance, their point of view. I think many a times a lot of people when they're debating or they have a conflict that they don't take that time out to listen. Like we were gifted 2 ears because we should be listening twice as much than we are talking. And you can't really understand someone's point of view without asking those types of probing questions. Like, why do you feel that way? What makes you think that this solution would work? Just because I have an opposite opinion of that, again, it doesn't mean that I'm going to stand firm on it, because a lot of times other people have better ideas, and maybe sometimes that what you thought was a great idea, there's a better one. And I think if everybody comes to the table with that line of thinking of that we want a consensus to get the best idea, it doesn't necessarily have to individually come from one person.
All righty. And that is all the questions that I have for you today. I want to once again thank you for applying. Please stay involved and stay connected to all that's involved in Swissvale, because we definitely can use as much help and participation from the community as possible.
Nice. I will do.
Have a
Hey,
nice
thank
evening.
you. Thanks. Yeah, thank you
Thank
so much, Ms. York. Ms. Maureen Sasso is our next applicant and interviewee. She's in the waiting room right now, so she'll be brought in momentarily.
Ms. Sasso, can you hear us?
Yes, I
There we
can.
go. Perfect. All righty. Do you prefer to, is it okay if we address you by your first name, Maureen?
Actually, I usually go by my middle name, Diana.
Diana. Thank you so much, Diana. And thank you so much for applying for the Human Relations Commission. So I'm going to go right into the questions. And I just want to let you know, Diana, we're making sure that we are being consistent and we're asking everyone the same questions to be fair and consistent. So, Diana, what prompted you to apply for this role? Why do you want this job?
Well, I saw the announcement of it and I was interested in it because it was something that I have some experience in working at my employer, which is Duquesne University. And I thought that this would be an opportunity for me to take some of the skills that I have developed in the work that I do there, and maybe I could offer those skills to my community. It's like since 2014, I have served on anti-discrimination panels as well as conduct boards for students. So I've had some training in it, and I found it both challenging, sometimes very sad, but it's also rewarding when you can help people to resolve their conflicts and maybe hopefully to move forward in a more positive direction.
Thank you so much, Diana. And so sorry, Diana, I lost my place and my questions here. What is your approach to problem solving? And can you give us an example of where your approach has been effective?
Okay. I would say that I'm a very logical problem solver. Okay. I'm not that person who goes, kind of goes crazy. It's like, okay, here's the problem. How can we solve this problem? And I try to go about it in a logical way. I try to set realistic priorities. I try to learn what I need to learn to solve that problem, and pay attention to the details. And then I also try to find collaborators that can help me. Sometimes you need allies to solve a problem. But in the end, you have to step up and you have to do what you need to do. An example that I can give you is from my employment, if that's okay. I had a person resign with very little notice. Okay. And that person had a skill set that the rest of us didn't have. So I basically had to figure out how to keep that position going for a year without a person in it, which meant that I had to figure out how to keep our social media from going dark. I didn't know anything about social media, right? So I had to sit down and say, okay, how are we going to do this? Because we cannot go dark. That's not an option. So, and that's what I had to do. I had to figure out, what do I have to learn? Who do I know that might have some of these skills? Who can I tap? Who can I work with? How can we form a team? What is it that we can do together to make this, to solve this problem? And, and it did work. Okay. I found, this person could help with the graphics. This person can maybe help me write something that I needed to get written or so forth. This person had access to a social media platform that I did not have access to. And so, I like to kind of look at the problem logically, set out the steps, form a coalition if I need to, but do the work I need to do.
Thank you. What experience do you have with interpreting policy and disseminating guidelines and developing procedures for others?
I can take that from two approaches. I've been a manager and supervisor for many years, and so I've had to develop and write policies. I've had to communicate them to my staff. I've had to communicate them beyond my staff. So if the policy was something like social media, like I just mentioned, we needed a policy, right? And we needed to situate that policy within the values of our institution and what are and the processes of our institution. So I needed to go out, learn what those were, write that policy, find who could approve that policy, like not just through in my particular unit, but then up to the university level, and then communicate it to the people who would be helping me, as well as to our user community, so they would understand what they could expect from us and what we expected of them. So that's on the one hand of like writing the policy, putting it into action, communicating it. On the other aspect that you asked about, I would point to, again, my work with doing some of these anti-discrimination panels. The university has a series of policies, administrative policies, which can be quite detailed about how you have to approach and these situations. What's appropriate behavior, what's not appropriate behavior, how do you question people, how do you hold a hearing, how do you write a response, what kind of sanctions can you give, and in what circumstances can you do those things. So again, I've been doing that since 2014 and working with these panels, and that's an example I can give you.
That's some really good experience, Diana. Thank you so much for replying. What do you do when others resist or reject your ideas or your actions?
I've had that happen. Maybe I'll answer that not in the sense of being a manager or supervisor, but I'm going to answer that in the sense of having been, say, on a committee together where we were trying to make that decision. And what I like to do is I like to say, let's go back over the facts. Let's go back over what we were told. Let's go back over what we heard, and let's compare and see where we differ. Let's find those points where we differ. And if we talk about it then and we still differ, then we need to differ, right? Because, well, like in the case of this commission, for example, the commission will be making a decision, right? I can make my decision and I can vote. My fellow commissioners can make their decisions and they can vote. But in the end, it's the commission that makes the decision, right? And so we've formed that identity. We respect one another. We respect one another's views. And we say, look, we're all informed decision makers. We sometimes are not going to agree. Okay, we have to do what's in the best interest here and move on and make the decision. We can't just disagree forever.
Thank you. Can you give me an example of a time when you had to deal with a difficult colleague and how you handled this?
You don't have all night. Let me think. What's an easiest one? I think that one way that I do that is I kind of kill them with kindness. Okay. My job is, again, not to point out to people why they're wrong and I'm right. My job is to find that common ground. Sometimes my job is to tell that person, no, we can't do this. And here's why. Okay. But I'm not going to do that in an aggressive way. I'm going to, again, marshal my facts, show them why it is, and I'm going to hold my ground. You know, I've had to do that many times to say to somebody, no, we can't do that. Think about it when you're a librarian, right? People want to do all kinds of things and they can't, but you don't want to alienate them and you don't want to turn them away.
Which is more desirable for a commission? One that is, you know, run in an efficient business-like manner, that's business-oriented, or one that is based on, you know, unifying the community and improving community involvement and engagement?
Well, I kind of don't think you can have one without the other. And I'll tell you why, because in my experience, and again, I've also been on grievance committee. I was chair of the grievance committee for faculty. And one of the things that causes the most grievances is inconsistency. So you want to have a commission that has a consistent process. Okay. And whatever that process is, it needs to be consistent, because in that way, you can assure all the parties that they're going to be treated fairly, right? And you can then assure them and you can help them to perceive. It's not just that you treat them fairly, they have to perceive that they've been treated fairly. You have to be able to tell them what to expect. Then you have to follow through on that so that they can see that you did, in fact, tell them what you were going to do. You treated them fairly and you did it. Okay. But again, that said, my work has been in an educational institution, and we're always trying to help to educate, right? We're looking for restorative justice, and we're not looking just to penalize people. People don't always learn well when all they get is a harsh sanction. Depending on the severity of their offense, yes, you're going to have to give them a sanction. Sometimes it's going to be a hard sanction. But really, you want to try to find ways that, like with this commission, if we could help people in our deliberations and in our decisions to see what went wrong, okay, and to see how it doesn't have to go wrong again, to see that we could move forward, and we can move forward in a more positive way and in a more educated way. And so the other thing I think is that people need to know up front what the rules are. and they need to know upfront what the consequences are. So whatever this commission, I know it's new, whatever it puts out and says these are going to be the rules, then the people who are going to be bound by them, we need to communicate them far and wide and over again, because that's one of the things I learned with social media is you can't just tell people once, right? You have to be able to remind them, and you have to tell them in the places where they are, right? Just because you're on Instagram doesn't mean they're on Instagram. You have to give them multiple ways to find that information, understand that information, and you have to be responsive to them, to their questions. So long-winded, but that's what I think.
You just touched my soul. My fellow councilmates will tell you, I am forever saying our residents are not all on social media.
They're not.
We have to communicate in so many other different forums. You are, because let's say you are a committee member and your fellow committee members, they disagree with a point or a decision of yours. How will
Right.
you respond?
Well, as I mentioned, what I will say to them is, look, can we just look at that one more time? Let's look at what we heard. Let's look at what we saw. You and I, all of us, let's decide. And if they disagree, then that's okay. I respect them. They disagreed. We all heard the same facts, right? We've all had the same training. But when it comes time to make our decisions, we have to go with our conscience, so to speak. We heard what the case was. We understand it in a certain way, and we need to vote in that way. That just means that, one person, one vote. The commission, the committee, whoever it is, the majority is going to rule.
Well, thank you so much, Diana. And please stay involved and please stay connected in all things related to the borough, because we can use as much help as we can get.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Diana, as well, for your time and your application. Thank you, Ms. Scales, for conducting the interviews this week and last week and having that consistent set of questions to provide that opportunity for all of us as council members to kind of hear the same sample size for all of them. So thank you so much for that. Let's turn our attention to the regular council meeting. So if you are tuning in, maybe you're just now tuning in, we just wrapped up the interviews 4, 5, and 6 for our Human Relations Commission. And we will be discussing and voting on that at the next month's council meeting, legislative meeting. But tonight, June 7th, 2023, we have our regular council meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. Let's go through roll call. Miss Alfonso Wells.
Present.
Mr. Miser.
Here.
Mr. Price.
Here.
Mr. Quinn.
Present.
Miss Scales.
Here.
Miss Stribling.
Present.
Mayor Schwartzwelder.
Here.
So we do not have any public comment, but we do have a Meet the Police. I know that's not on the agenda that was published, but we do have a Meet the Police. We have Officer Deb Indovina here to join us tonight. Deb, I don't know if you can hear us. Hi. So this has been an opportunity for us and for the residents to meet the police, to put a face with a name, and to hear and learn a little bit about you. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you love most about being a Swissvale police officer.
Okay. I started Swissvale in January of '99. So we're starting my 24th year at the end of this year. There's a lot of things about this job in this community that I like. I enjoyed the diversity in the community. I enjoy meeting the people and getting out. And I like community relations a lot. Seems to be more my forte. Not a big talker.
Do any? Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Scales.
Deb, how long have you been serving the borough of Swissvale?
24 years.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for your service. I know you said that you love the diversity within our community. Is there any sort of, unique experience or anything you'd like to share with us during your 24 years of service?
We do a lot of community stuff in Swissvale. I really enjoy the Toys for Tots we do every year. We start that early in the season and we get together with the community, and it started out really small, and we would get together with all the kids and the teachers and kind of just help out the kids that really needed it most. And it's really grown into something great for the community where we're able to give gifts to a lot of people, and it's a fun event.
Myself and Angela, we had the chance to attend, and we both agree with you.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for your service. And I have a question. What, as a female, made you decide to want to become a police officer? What was in it that you felt that you could actually be good at it, first of all, and how you could give back to the community in that way?
It's in my uncle was a commander in the city. My dad was a jail guard. So it was kind of in our blood to begin with. And I guess just sitting around the dinner table, listening to the stories and all the people they've helped and all the things they've done in their career, it's kind of always interested me. I'm not a desk person. I was pregnant for a little while when I was working, and sitting at a desk doesn't fare well for me in an office. I'm definitely not an office person.
Schwartzwalder, go ahead.
Well, yes, Deb is woman of few words, but when it comes to the community, she is well heard. Everybody, I get so many compliments almost weekly, how Deb has helped them, how Officer Indovina, worked them through a crisis or worked through from beginning to end to solve a problem. And yes, you don't like to talk a lot, but you do. When you talk, people listen and they value your opinion. And I just want to say you are one of our best officers, and we appreciate you. And I appreciate the way you treat Swissvale.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for your service, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. You guys have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. You as well. Take care. Okay, let's move on to item 4, which is council actions. I counted them up. We have, I think, 11 motions that we're going to be bringing to the table tonight. So under council actions, item A, minutes, if someone wants to make that motion.
I move to approve the minutes of the April 26, 2023 council agenda meeting and the May 3rd, 2023 council meeting.
Second.
All right, motion is on the table. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, let's call the question. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, 1 down, 10 to go. Item B, finance. Would someone like to make that motion?
I move to approve the Borough of Swissvale paid bills in the amount of $405,305.62.
Second.
All right, thank you. Motion is on the table. Any discussion?
Gotta pay your bills.
Got to pay your bills. All right. Let's call the question. All in favor of approving the motion as read and paying our bills, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Next, we have item C, which is the Borough Building, and there were 2 motions that we will be discussing tonight that we'll be bringing up tonight that we discussed last week. So if someone wants to make the first of those motions.
I move to approve the subdivision plan for the consolidation of 7 lots into 1 lot at 7560 Roslyn Street for the development of the new new municipal building.
Second.
Oh, Weldy.
All right, motion is on the table. Is there any discussion on this motion? The only question that I have, Mr. Batchy, if you could answer in this, sorry, whenever we talked earlier, I didn't actually think about this till I was just reading it again. My understanding is that the address is going to change, that it's going to be, because the building faces Braddock Avenue, that it's going to be a Braddock Avenue address. When and how does that, is that anything we need to vote on, or is that something the USPS does? Where does that enter into this process?
Once the building permit's approved, actually the fire department is the address coordinator. Mr. Wilhelm's the address coordinator for the borough. He will sign the address and then notify the post office, county EMS, and a bunch of other agencies that this will be the address for the building. But yeah, we can't use the Roslyn Street address anymore because the main entrance faces on South Braddock Avenue. So it will be somewhere in the 2200 range of South Braddock.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that because this was listed as a subdivision for 75 or consolidation at 7560 Roslyn, that we weren't hamstringing ourselves down the line.
No, we're fine.
So perfect, wonderful. Any other comments or questions? All right,
We'll be able to say that we moved.
Change of address.
Not as far as Strauss Miser's moving, but
that is true. Yeah. All right. Let's all in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Someone want to make the second of those motions?
I move to approve the site plan for the construction of a new municipal building located on property owned by Swissville Borough on South Braddock Avenue between Roslyn Street and Ardmore Street.
Second.
All right, motion is on the table. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, we'll say that the motion carries. Next motion, or the next section, is under item D for purchasing. Would someone like to make that motion?
I move to ratify the salt bid with Cargill Inc. at a cost of $85.85 per ton for the 2023 to 2024 winter season.
Second.
All right, motion's on the table. This was something we did discuss last week. Is there any further discussion on it? All right, hearing none, let's call the question. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. Our next section is item E for EV charging. There is a motion if someone would like to make that motion to put it on the table.
I move to approve a master services agreement with Green Edge Tech Electric LLC for the management of the EV charging location on Aurelius Avenue.
Second.
And
Great,
can
thank
we,
you. Motion-
you know what, can we add to this motion? Can we add additional language at the end as per the solicitor's final approval? We're still working through the final odds and ends of that.
Yeah. I didn't
so would
think
you
we
like
had
us to make-
finished it yet?
Well, yeah, well, I was waiting to make it for a motion second to be made, and I was going to mention Mr. McTiernan has agreed in principle to language with their attorney, but we don't have a final draft of it. So if you're not comfortable without the final draft in place, just go ahead and table it. If you are comfortable with Mr. McTiernan working out the language with Green Edge, and you could add the amendment that Ms. Pachalski just added, just asked you to add on to it. So there's no overwhelming reason it has to be approved tonight. We were hoping we'd have a final version, but Green Edge's attorney did not get get anything drafted and back to us in time for this meeting. So if, like I said, if you're comfortable with allowing Mr. McTiernan to finish it, to make sure that what they've agreed to is in there, go ahead and approve it. If you're not, go ahead and table it.
I would
Yeah, and
like to
just
make
as
a
you
motion
said
to
too.
table. I'm
Second.
definitely not comfortable without looking over what the final wording is.
Yeah. Second.
So there's now a new motion on the table. Mr. Miser, we'll go to discussion. So Mr. Miser, you had your hand up if you want to say something before we actually vote on anything.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna speak to that I didn't feel comfortable voting on something that I haven't had a hard copy to review prior to that. So
Yeah, that sounds good. Are there others who have additional thoughts beyond what has been shared? So just to make sure, remind us that the motion that we are voting on right now, and if Ms. Pacholski, if you can correct me if I'm doing anything procedurally out of order, but it's the motion that is currently on the table is to table this motion for a month. That is what we're voting on. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yes.
do
Am I
we
good with
have to
that? Okay.
do we have to vote on the initial motion since it was made and seconded?
I would say that since you made the initial motion and it was seconded, I would vote whether to approve it or not, and then I would make another motion to table it to next month.
Okay. Well, then let's do that. We'll follow that procedure. So correction, we are now voting on whether or not to accept the contract. The initial motion that was made, the one that, I don't want to tell you how to vote, so I won't say that. But given what our discussion was. So we are currently voting on whether to accept the master services agreement contract. So all in favor of approving the contract, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay.
Yay.
And are there any abstentions? Okay, hearing no abstentions, that motion fails. And so maybe Miss Alfonso Wells, would you mind making your motion again so that we can kind of keep that section?
Yes, I make a motion to, what did I say
Table.
before?
Table?
Yes, to table. Everybody's saying it. I make a motion to table the agreement until we have a finalized version from Mr. McTiernan and Greenwich Technologies.
Second.
Great. Okay, so now the tabling, any other discussion on this? I know we already talked about it a moment ago, but I want to give space for that. All right, so a motion to table is currently on the floor. All in favor of tabling this motion till next month, please say aye.
I don't think, did we get a second on that?
Yes,
We
Mr.
did.
Quinn, second.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
So all in favor of tabling the motion until next month, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Please say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, that motion passes. So we are now tabling it until next month. And I would imagine by then, if we don't have an updated draft shortly, I will be disappointed. So hopefully we'll have that in our boxes so that we can all review that.
And just
Okay,
so you
let's
know,
move-
we are very close. They've agreed on the language. I just think she needed final approval from the client to formally give, consent to those changes, but everything is very close from my understanding.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for that update. All right, let's move on to Group F under ordinances. There's one motion under there dealing with the incursion of debt, if someone would like to make it.
Well,
I move to approve the ordinance number
Um,
23-03,
No.
authorizing
I think
the
Greg
Wait a
has-
public
second,
courier debt.
Bill,
Bill,
Greg
yeah,
wants to
Bill.
say something first.
I'm sorry, Bill. Yeah, Greg
sorry.
Greg was trying to chime in something. What's up, Greg?
I'm sorry, but Mr. McTiernan and I spoke this afternoon at some length about this. Mr. McTiernan, Ms. Pacholski, and myself spoke. And he is asking that we table the motion tonight because there's some issue with DCED on the language that they want to see in the actual ordinance and the agreement with the bank. And the bank has not provided that information yet. Our note counsel and Mr. McTiernan's office have been working every day on this, but they have not come to a language agreement yet. So he asked that we table this tonight. And when I spoke to Mr. Ansel this afternoon, I mentioned that we may have to do a special meeting, but that is to approve this, but that is not the case. Mr. McTiernan checked the dates and everything and clarified that this evening with me, that if we move to approve on July 5th, we will still be within the advertising deadlines.
I move to table the approval of ordinance number 23-03.
Second.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Batchy, for that update. Sorry, Bill, that you got cut off there in making this, but we're, yeah. Ms. Alfonso Wells, go ahead.
Yeah, it says non-electoral debt. Does that mean debt that's not in an election year? What does that mean?
I think it means it wasn't voted on by the public.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah, just a really weird word. When do you ever see that? Okay. Thank you. Educated me and the public who's watching. Thank you.
Yeah, and as Mr. Batchy alluded to, there was just some language in how the loan was initially communicated to us from First Commonwealth. Is that our bank? First Commonwealth?
Yes.
Yeah, First Commonwealth. And it sounds like in principle that First Commonwealth and DCED have agreed on the language, but that has not been updated in any kind of draft on there. So it's that's just why it needs to table. We don't have the correct thing to vote on tonight. So all in favor of tabling the motion that was read, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Try to force it through. Say nay. Any abstentions? All right, the motion has been tabled to the next month. All right, let's move on to item G, resolutions. We have 3 resolutions that we're looking to bring up tonight.
So I move to approve resolution number 2305 to apply to Alcosan for a GROW grant in the amount of $287,000. Yeah, $287,725 to begin the M48 sanitary / storm sewer separation project.
Second.
All right, motion is on the table. Is there any discussion on this?
I'm on the sewer board, apparently, or one of the boards or something. I don't know. I'm on something. I'm on a lot of things, but whatever it is, they really want to give this money out for people to do these projects. So I'm glad that we are approving, hopefully, so that we can get a chunk of that cash so that we can do this project. I mean, sewer separation is very important so that your sewage doesn't flow into the river. And then when you're trying to get your fish, you come up with a little turd. Don't like that. So, a very important project. It happens all the time.
Very, very vivid imagery too. Yeah, so this is phase 1, as we talked about last week. This is the one that involves kind of the end line of it, boring under railroad tracks that we're applying for. So any other comments or discussion around it?
I enjoy fishing for crappie, but
all right, let's vote on this motion. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Say nay. Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Anyone want to move on the next resolution?
I move to approve resolution number 23-06 to apply to the Act 152 demolition program administered by Allegheny County for grant funding in the amount of $75,000 to demolish 5 structures.
Second.
Wonderful. Motion is on the table. Any discussion or conversation around this one?
So this means we are approving to apply for the grant, right?
Correct.
Got you.
All right, let's call the question. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The last resolution kind of goes hand in hand with this one, if someone would like to make it.
I move to approve resolutions 2307, 2308, 2309, 2310, and 2311, declaring that the structures located at 7509 Melrose Street, 7311 Florence Avenue, 2453 Woodstock Avenue, 2462 Woodstock Avenue and 1650 Monongahela Avenue meet the criteria to be declared blighted for the purposes of the Act 152 grant application.
Second.
All right, motion is on the table. Is there any discussion on this motion? All right, hearing none, let's call the question. All in favor of approving the motion and these 5 resolutions as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We are on to the last section under council actions, which is item H for Tri-Cog Land Bank. Would someone like to make that motion?
I
I
move
move-
this. Oh, you can go ahead, Angela.
No, you go.
I move to waive the 60-day notice period for the disposition of properties located at 2320 Buena Vista Street and 2321 Buena Vista Street, known at tax IDs 235E250 and 235E252 by the Tri-Cog Land Bank.
Second.
Motion is on the table. We talked about this last week, and just to make sure that we are all on the same page, this is waiving the 60-day period or what's left of the 60-day period, whereas we as a borough would contest this. The next step, if we waive it, is there's a 90-day period that they will be seeking a buyer that is not a LLC, not a flipper, but someone who would I don't know, what's the language for that, Mr. Batchy, that they would use?
Owner occupied.
Owner occupied. Thank you for that. So that is all we're doing, is waiving it so that our contestant period, so that they can try to find that owner occupied sooner rather than later. Any other discussion on it? All right, hearing none, let's call the question. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. That is the business section of our evening. Let's move on to item J under reports. And our first report is the COG report. I have on the screen Ms. Scales. I know you and Ms. Stribling sometimes tag team that. So either one of you are welcome to take the floor.
So COG held its meeting last week, Wednesday, and unfortunately that was during the time of our meeting. So myself and Angela, we were not able to attend, and we're currently waiting on a few updates in terms of what took place so that we can inform you guys. But outside of the COG report, there is a statement that I would like to release in regards to the police committee and police regionalization. Is it okay for me to state it at this time, Chris, or should I wait?
Would you mind waiting until after the solicitor's report, which is where I usually have us do announcements, and we'll just kind of keep it with that? Would that be okay?
That's fine.
I'll make a note to myself so I don't blaze past it. Okay. Well, thank you for that update, or the update about the update for the COG report. Let's move on to item 2, which is the Connect report. Ms. Alfonso Wells.
Yeah, so Connect is still connecting. They had actually they had 2 meetings today. They had one meeting today, which was for LEAD. So they're working on LEAD. They're just trying to get people together. They're constantly going over what we're doing with LEAD so that we can make it the best program possible, and so that Swissvale can benefit from it as much as possible. We have also been meeting to do some composting waste management. That has been a new project that they have started. It's fascinating. It's amazing to actually be in the room as we try to, we're applying for this grant along with the city of Pittsburgh. So they're taking different municipalities along with the city of Pittsburgh. And as a region, we're applying for this grant to do composting waste management. And so we're trying, or at least I'm trying, and a couple of other municipalities are trying, so that we can be the pilot of a composting waste management project, so that we can actually see if it works. and how, and what would be the sticking points or the pinch points, or what would be the problems with that, such as distribution of whatever type of receptacle that the composting waste would go in. The other issues are, where would we put the waste? Where would it get picked up? Is it getting picked up from your house? Do you have to bring it to a centralized location where you are dumping it? So a lot of different issues to work through. So we've been working on that a lot. I've had at least, I would say this last month, we've had at least 2 meetings, and we're only on the 7th. Okay, so maybe a little bit was from last month. So yeah, 2 or 3 then meetings for that. And we continue to meet. We're getting our strategy together for this upcoming year in terms of the projects that we want to do. We're still working on that digitization project. It's not forgotten, but sometimes, during the summer, the wheels work a little slowly, but I do manage to remind them quite often. And they are still working on fire safety in our region, and what that means, and how they can help the fire departments in our region be healthy, so that we can continue to have good fire service, basically. So I've been in a couple of those meetings too. Always fascinating to listen to and to hear from the top people who are working on this, the fire chiefs. That's who's at the meeting. I find it to be very fascinating to see what they're talking about and how they're trying to move forward, so that our region can have coverage. We have lost so many people who used to do this job. I think it went down from, like, I don't know, Mr. Volpe could probably answer this quicker, but it went down from, I don't know, 300,000 to like 40,000 or something. And maybe not that steep, but it is under, I think, 100,000. So, and this is over the years, and it keeps going lower and lower in terms of volunteer firefighters. And so people are really trying to revive this. I did see that there was a project in one of our local boroughs, I believe, that's trying to interest more people in volunteering and trying to get those kids when they're young to excite them about the prospect. I mean, it's part of it is the fact that it's service, right? And I don't think our generations that are here now are focused as much on service. And if you're working for the borough, if you're on a borough council, you tend to be service oriented. And so we're trying to get people who are service oriented, and trying to inspire and promote that. In the 50s, that was something that was part of a whole culture of service orientation, right? And so now we have to look at different ways to have that same type of service orientation, and to open it up for more people to come in so that they want to do that. So that is another issue that we're looking at. So once again, lots of issues. And as I tell everybody, every meeting, you're all invited to come. Actually, there are quite a few residents that tend to show up. I'm not quite sure. I invited a couple of them, and they consistently show up. I think Seth Bush and Robert Rogers. I always get his name confused and backwards, but yeah, they show up consistently to those meetings. So they constantly go, and they make sure, and they're checking. It's another set of eyes. So anybody who wants to be another set of eyes, or you want to make great connections, if you know what I mean, it is a great place to get started. You really do meet a lot of people from the different municipalities, and on a different level than if you just go to the COG. These tend to be associated with all types of grants and the university. So there are all different types of ways to get involved. So, if you have a couple of moments, or you have something that's your passion, like Mr. Miser has his passion with IT, you are more than welcome to join or to pop up at a meeting at any point in time. So I encourage when the bill comes in, because the bill always comes in, to join this fabulous organization. I think we get way more out of it than the slight membership fee that we pay into it. So I encourage us to continue on with that and to know that this is a very worthwhile organization that we belong to.
So much for that report, and thank you so much for the many hours that you put into this organization. I don't know if it's a committee, but this group that is very forward thinking and just kind of entrepreneurial, but innovative. I do think that there is a lot of benefit. I mean, we clearly have seen the benefit. You've reported on it. Things like LEAD, things like some of these internships we've talked about have come out of that relationship. So thank you for your hard work in that. Let's move on to item 3, which is the building report. Mr. Price.
Yes, bids were opened on Monday for the demolition of the Borough building, and there were 9 different bidders. The lowest bidder did not make a bid bond in his bid, and so it can't be considered. The second lowest bid was $210,300. The building committee will be making a recommendation to council for the July 5th meeting to award this contract, and we're expecting the demolition to begin in early August.
Thanks so much, Bill. Do you have more that you wanted to say about the building committee?
I'm hoping that we can have some sort of celebration later this year when we break ground for the new building and perhaps install a time capsule, maybe a nice cornerstone. But that's all for tonight.
Any chance that each of us can take a turn with the wrecking ball or whatever, and maybe knock a wall down or two? I'll put on a hard hat. It would be fun.
Probably have to consult with our insurance company, but
I would imagine
I don't
so.
object.
That'd be great. Well, go ahead.
I should mention, I've had a 1 or 2 increase from people asking me already if they could have a piece of the Borough building. So that's something we could think about, is maybe saving some nice bricks or something. And perhaps there might be something architectural from the old building that we could save and incorporate into the new building, some bricks or stone or something.
I guess nobody grabbed one of those bricks that fell off when it came tumbling down. No one went by and say, "Ooh, there's my brick."
Like the walls of Jericho.
Well, Bill, thanks so much for the report. I am delighted to hear that we had bids after a couple of rounds of the McKeag Street garage with no bids. I was a little anxious, a little apprehensive. So I'm glad to hear that we do have a bid and that we can vote on that and keep this project moving. So thank you. Thanks to you and to the building committee for that. Next is the president's report. I don't really have anything much to add. Some of you may have noticed that our air quality has been pretty low the last couple of days. Specifically today, it was pretty high, much higher than usual. I think, again, I'm not an expert, but given reading headlines on BBC and NPR, it seems like there's the wildfires in Canada that seem to be attributing to some of this. But just if anyone's, it doesn't have, a little like air quality index on your Google Home like I do, just know that if you're sensitive, that this is a kind of a rough patch. You might want to stay closed up at night, which just pains me because it's so nice.
Can I comment on that real quick, Chris?
Yeah, please do.
In addition to my technology interest, I'm also an amateur meteorologist who enjoys weather forecasting. And so I have been following the smoke models for the next day or so. And actually tomorrow evening could be especially bad in our area. Earlier this evening, actually, New York City had the worst AQI on the entire planet. And some more of that smoke from Canada is supposed to be more in the Western PA area tomorrow evening. So just anyone with outdoor plans tomorrow, it's not a for sure thing, but just, keep that in mind.
Yeah, I believe it was at 400, and that was in comparison to like Tokyo and someplace else, and Tokyo and maybe Shanghai, which was like at 125 and 165, and those are usually the highest ones. And so I think it was some people were putting masks on to keep the particulates that were actually coming through from getting into their lungs. It is one of those days that if you can stay in, probably with a filter on, that's fantastic. but especially if you have asthma or something, you should be careful about going outside.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to the more experts as opposed to my amateur. I just kind of kept watching that number climb higher and higher in my Google Home and was just trying to figure it out myself. So thanks for that. I mean, the other thing, we announced this last week, but just to also share that the Juneteenth celebration is coming up in 10 days. I think we're at now down at Memorial Field, noon to 8, I believe, and the Pittsburgh Pride. Swissville Pride celebration is going to be June 25th. It's a Sunday, beginning at the Noble Street lot at 10 a.m. and marching to Dixon, and there'll be festivities there throughout the day on that day. So I just wanted to kind of put that on residents' radars for those celebrations that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. All right, let's move on to the mayor's report. Mayor Schwartzwalder.
I apologize. My internet's been in and out. So if I freeze, and you all get to enjoy a frozen picture. Lots going on in June. So tomorrow, Sedco and the Rotary, we will be meeting at the Church Street Parklet. Sedco would like to kind of take the lead in finding a proposed design and our next steps for the Church Street Parklet. So tomorrow we will be meeting at 10 a.m. there, along with the Rotary and some other groups. And we're just trying to put together a plan for that area. And we'll report on that once we know what we're doing. And we will send out the report to council, of course. The farmers market had its opening day, Saturday, June 3rd. It was a beautiful day in our new location at Dixon School. We had the highest attendance in our 10 years, one-day attendance. So we were very pleased, and it was a great opening day. So if you did not get there, we are every Saturday, 9 to 2, Dixon School, and we go till the end of October. So I hope to see everyone there. Also, the Rotary will be celebrating its 95th anniversary. Swissville Rotary meets at Pub in the Park next Wednesday at 1 p.m. All are invited to join our birthday celebration and just come and meet and greet with the Rotarians. Join the group if you'd like and have some cake. Also, June 21st at 6:30 at the Swissville Fire Department, we will have our neighborhood block captain discussion. If anybody would like to attend, please do so. That's June 21st at 6:30 at the fire station. And as everyone knows, I hope that Swissville is celebrating our quasi-centennial. We have July is jam-packed full of events, starting on July 8th with our Kids Bike Derby and Touch a Truck. And I'm just going to go through our list of events, and I'm asking the public if you are interested in any of the events, volunteering or helping to plan. Please talk to Sarah at the Borough Building, and she will get you in touch with what meetings or who you need to be in touch with. So July 8th, Kids Bike Derby, Touch a Truck. That will be at the administration building on Evans Street. July 15th, 3-on-3 basketball tournament at Collingwood Park. July 17th to August 5th is Swissville Faces and Places art show at the Wilkins School Community Center. July 21st from 6 to 9, open mic night and coffee house at the Senior Center. July 22nd from 10 to 2 is our edible garden tour. And just to let you know, Friday is the last day to sign up to have your garden toured. So go on their website and sign up if you want to be a participant. And then there'll be a community picnic from 2:30 to 5 at Dixon School, July 22nd after the edible garden tour. And then July 29th, that's our big day. 8 to 10:30 Swiss Val Mile, starting at Dixon School. 9 to 2 Farmers Market, also at Dixon School. 3 to 4 parade through the streets of Swissvale. 4 to 9:20 is Community Days at Memorial Park, and 9 to 9:20 are the fireworks. And then Sunday, the 30th, there'll be an outdoor service and fellowship at United at the Baptist Church. So that is my report. Are there any questions, comments, concerns?
Looks like Swissvale's hopping.
We are busy.
It
We are
is jam-packed.
busy.
We are. We are popping.
But it's great stuff. And we couldn't do it without our volunteers. So thank you to everyone who volunteers to help with all of these events. And that's my report.
Great. Thank you so much for all of that information. There's a lot in there, and I'm sure all of that will be on social media and the website as well. If you forget it, if it is one in the ear, out the other, you can find it at other places. Let's move on to the manager's report. Mr. Batchy.
Thanks, sir. Just to follow up on what the mayor had said about the meeting with Sedco and Rotary tomorrow at the Parklet, Miss Ansel will be attending that meeting. I'm unable to attend tomorrow, but there will be a presence from the borough staff there with Miss Ansel attending in my place. Next thing is we have a zoning hearing board meeting scheduled for Tuesday, June 13th at 7 p.m. to hear 2 use variance requests, one at 7345 Burton Street by Mr. and Mrs. Beasley to convert an existing building into an office building, and one at 7200 Schroyer Avenue to convert, it's already a three unit apartment building, but they never received any proper approvals for it, and a new owner bought it and is rehabbing it and would like to get this in compliance with the zoning. So that is on Tuesday, the 13th at 7. It's via Zoom. If any council member or any member of the public wish to attend, give comments or anything, please contact the borough office by noon on the 13th, and we'll give you the Zoom link so that you can provide your public comment. We have a bid opening scheduled on June 27th for demolition project, which is 8 structures we have advertised that we did last year that we did public hearings on. Primary one is 7714 Edgewood Avenue. It's an old bar. There's one on Manor Avenue, one on Woodstock, a couple or 3 on Hawthorne Avenue, and I'm blanking on the other 2, but they're out for bid currently right now. And, we advertised in the same places as we did for the borough building. And plus we did do a target, where we sent a bunch of bid notices out so people were aware of it. So hopefully we'll get those, maybe we'll get 7, 8, 9 bidders on this project. It's about $110,000 to $120,000 project we're hoping to award. So, it's a decent sized project. So we hope we get some bids. We were approved to participate in the Connect to Get Solar program that the applications were due at the beginning of mid-May. I'm sorry. I did submit that, and that's through Connect, where they're trying to hook up. This would be for the borough building, where they're trying to hook up people who want to do solar projects with funding and with contractors who are able to do them, and try to tie that all together. There's a number of steps going through right now. I got an email today that I need to respond to with some information back to the Get Solar program, but we did get approved for that. Last week on Thursday, I got an email from an employee of the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development about a grant application that we can submit for improvements to Memorial Park. It is through ARPA with ARPA funds and they open this up once a month on a Friday between 9 and 4 a.m. and 4 p.m. and you have to submit your grant application. Representative Salisbury is the one who put this in, because we had applied for funds twice for that project through the GEDTF program and were turned down. She had passed this on to the ARPA program through DCED. They reached out to me. I completed the application on Friday. It looks pretty promising that we'll get about $100,000 to do some renovations on the baseball field, on the large field down there, such as a new backstop, new fencing, regrading the infield. There's a lip like on the outfield, push all the dirt back in, redo the pitcher's mound, and maybe even if there's money, build some dugouts there. So I don't know the timeline when we would get the award if we get it, but it is the application was submitted on Friday. And just one more thing, two more things actually. The Borough building will be closed on June 19th in honor of the Juneteenth holiday. There will be trash and recycling pickup. There will not be street sweeping that day. So on Monday, the 19th, nobody needs to move their cars. There will not be sweeping that day. And then on July 4th, the Borough building will be closed also for the July 4th holiday. And that week, the trash and recycling will be pushed back a week. Or I'm sorry, not a week, a day, because the landfills are not open on July 4th. So we can't collect the trash on July 4th. So there'll be no services at all on July 4th and the Borough building will be closed. That is my report.
Mr. Batchy, was there street sweeping on Monday?
There was not, because we were short-staffed that day and we were not able to staff the sweeper.
Okay, I thought maybe I was like missing, but
no.
Gales, go ahead.
I want to know if you knew, Greg, in terms of what type of grants we should look into to add a water spray park to the Collinwood Park.
There are a number of different programs. There's it's called the C2P2 programs, Community Conservation and Parks Program, I believe. It's through DCNR. There is another program, and it's through DCD that's eluding me right now, the name of it.
Greg, I think you're breaking up for more than just me, right? Is he breaking up for all of you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mr. Batchy, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Great. You were breaking up there. So after you said the C2P2 and whatever it was, you said some stuff, but we didn't hear it.
There are a number of other grant programs, 2 or 3 at least state programs that we can look at in order to try to fund something like that. But if we get the grant funds for the Memorial Park upgrades, I'd mentioned a couple months ago about maybe we should bring someone in to do, a master plan of the park rather than we just replace in kind. Maybe we can look at a master plan for expanding Collingwood Park, a master plan for Memorial Park, just to get some general idea. It doesn't have to be a very in-depth study, but we can, get some design layouts and maybe do some, public surveying to find out what people want at these parks and try to fit them in and then seek funding for it.
That would be perfect, because I remember when Collinwood did get when it was fixed up to look at the way that it is now. I know folks were a little upset that they were not included in the process, but they said that they wish there were like spray parks, a bathroom, specifically at Collinwood.
Mhm.
And I see the table has been removed from the park. It was broken in half. I don't know how that happened. I see the table has been completely removed. Are we planning to install a new one there?
Yeah, we ordered one, so it'll be a few weeks before it comes in.
Okay. And then my last question, has our youth started to work with us yet for the summer?
Monday we had Jordan can answer that a little better than I can, but I know we had one start on Monday, and I think a couple more started today. Jordan,
Okay.
Could you hear?
Yeah, we have one Jack now, and then we have 2 or 3 students next week.
Oh, next week. Okay.
Can we put somewhere on the calendar for us to come and?
Weldy, we can't hear
Weldy.
you. Yeah.
Oh, can you hear me?
Now we can. Yep.
Can we add somewhere on the schedule, invite the elected officials or so to be able to come in and greet the youth? Welcome to our municipality.
Mhm. Yeah, we talked about that last month. We'll set up a date in maybe, you know, early to mid-July that we could try to do that.
Okay. And then maybe before they all take off, have like some picnic or something, you know, before
Sure.
we send them off.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Ms. Alfonso.
Oh, I would just say that, yeah, it's really odd. We're in a very odd geographical location here in Swissvale because the spray park that I've gone to since my kids were young is Swisshelm Park. It's not even Swissvale. And we used to be able to use the pool. And it used to give lessons at the pool at the intermediate school. That's when my kids learned how to swim, but that is no longer an option, right? And they were having problems with that pool a long time ago. So we actually don't really have a pool in our neighborhood. Most of the people who can and have to get invited will go to the Edgewood pool, which is very expensive. So yeah, it's very expensive. Not really with the majority of our demographic here, but that is a pool option. So there aren't that many close pools. So it would be nice if we did have some type of spray park, or if we thought at some point of having some type of pool access. If you want to get pool access, you have to either go to the city, or you have to be, like I said, Edgewood has a pool, but if you're not invited over there, you can't swim, right? And Forest Hills also has a pool, but if you're not invited over there, once again, you can't swim. And the last time my kids, this was at least 10 years ago, probably, but when they were competitively swimming, it was very nice to have the competition come in with their Confederate flag towels. That was a nice thing. So it'd be nice if we had something in our own neighborhood without Confederate flags being something that no one would ask the people, like, why do you have a Confederate flag towel at this meet? Interesting. So it would be nice if we had some type of recreational types of things that the kids could do in our own neighborhood and that they didn't have to leave. That would be exciting. And in reference to what we had for our public discussion or public comment from last week about the basketball hoops, it would also be nice if, and I totally volunteer myself if necessary, but it'd be nice if we can try to raise some money, to get a couple of hoops, or even ask people in the neighborhoods who maybe their children have left the home, but they have a basketball hoop, that we could bring and target different areas. We have about 4 or 5 different areas here in Swissvale that could use it, particularly if you have a little alleyway. Those are nice little places where kids can come together. So I totally have no problems with spearheading that. And I know Mr. Ansel would probably be very helpful with that, because that's the type of thing he likes to do. And Ms. Scales, I will voluntold you also.
That is an amazing idea. I'm like over here
right?
like, wow,
Well,
yeah.
I kept thinking about
Why
it.
didn't I think of that?
You probably did. It was in the ether. So the idea would just be to, and if I can, we'll see. I only have 10 days, so it's not like I think I can really raise money for basketball hoops. But one never knows, right? But I think that if we put it out there, I think there are many people in the community who also see that as a valuable idea. And I hope that as we are going forward, it's really nice to plan these types of recreational things so that our kids stay here while they're doing it. They shouldn't have to go far. I also want to plug that for Juneteenth, amongst all of our activities, we're having drummers and poets, and we're going to be having a pop-up skating park, right? That is amazing. It will be from 1 to 3. Bring your skates, bring your skateboards, and there will be some skateboards available for those who don't have them, and there will be people there who will be able to show you what to do. So that's amazing. We also have 2 bands, and the Carry Furnaces, they will not be offering shuttle rides, but they will be coming and having a display, right? So they will be doing a specialized display for Juneteenth that they will be bringing to us. And so you will be able to come down and to see this presentation there. And you don't even have to go to a secondary location. So we have a lot going on in our borough. And so I'm just so proud of all the things that we have for adults, for children, for you know, our elder community. This is what we like. The garden tour, which I also think is you know, fantastic. If you have an edible garden, please get on the tour. We'd love to walk around and say, ooh, ah, and then talk about your fights with the spotted lanternfly, which we're all fighting right now. So yes, please know that we have taken into consideration, and we are thinking about some of the things that that our citizens have told us about. And I'll be working with fellow council people to try and have some solutions that we can put up before the end of the summer. But if not, because government runs slowly and lots of vacations are coming up, we'll have them for next year, right? So this is just the start, and hopefully we'll come up with some creative ideas to help that out in our community.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Alfonso Wells. And I think I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think based off the nonverbal communication I saw from Ms. Scales that we have 3 bands. Is that correct? 3 bands. She had her fingers up. So 3 bands for Juneteenth. So that's 50% more than you were expecting a moment ago. So how about that rate of return?
I thought she was handing up the 3 because she wanted me to say 3 to 5, 3 to 5. I'm glad you read that.
Yeah. Mr. Batchy, thanks so much for all the report and the work that you've been doing, and glad that we have some opportunities for some grant funding and just continued movement and progress as a borough. Let's move on to item 7, which is the engineers report. Mr. Ziskow.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have a whole lot this evening, but I did want to add to what Mr. Batchy said. I hate acronyms, and I'm getting older, so it's harder for me to remember them, but the one grant that's out there for recreation is through the Commonwealth Financing Authority, and it's called Greenways, Trails, and Recreation Program, GTRP. Took me a while to get that. That's why I held back. But that's a very good grant, and quite honestly, with some assistance from your local representatives and state senators, they carry a lot of weight in helping to get those grants. So keep that in mind when we submit one. The other item I wanted to mention is in line with the Alcosan Grow grant that we are applying for. We also recently applied, again, under Commonwealth Financing Authority, under their COVID-19 Pennsylvania Small Water and Sewer Project grant, and we applied for matching funds. I can say that I've been pretty successful over the past few years in getting matching funds with Alcosan Grow and other agencies. Which will, if we're successful in both of them, I'm pretty comfortable with Alcosan. And we had a lot of questions during the workup phase from CFA. So if we get grants from both agencies, it should very significantly cut the municipal responsibility down as far as putting local funds towards is concerned. So hopefully that'll work. I really don't have anything else other than what's been in my engineering report.
Thank you so much for that. Let's move on to the Water Authority report. I don't see Ms. Crombie Collins online, so I will just, I believe her report is usually in the borough office with all the other reports, but just a couple of notes from her. I pulled it up here just to share kind of in her stead. I know that there have been all kinds of billing issues. We've been talking about that the last few months. She said that customers that were impacted by the auto pay and paperless billing system changes should have received their monthly billing in the mail. If you have not received your monthly bill, you should call the office as soon as possible, which is 412-243-6200. She notes that fees have been removed from impacted customer bills, and a letter should have been sent out to all customers regarding the new vendor, which is Invoice Cloud. Other than that, I know she often comments on the Penvest lead line replacement phase 1. Swissville had 232 contracts, 209 of which have been completed. I know we often talk about restoration work still needs to be done, but the actual pipes themselves are done. And so I guess what does that leave? 23 more left in the borough to be completed. So that's, I presume what she would have shared in her report, maybe with some other breaks in Swissville. I know there was a big one on Aurelius a couple days ago. But yeah, so I'll say that that's the water report. Let's move on to the solicitor's report. Ms. Pacholski is here in Mr. McTiernan's stead. So Ms. Pacholski, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. I don't have a report tonight, but just wanted to say hello. Thank you all for allowing me to be here. I also appreciated seeing many of you at ALOM. So it was nice to catch up and, hope to see you soon.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's move on to our announcements. And our first announcement was from Ms. Scales involving the police committee. So Ms. Scales, when you are ready, feel free to take the.
Thank you. Yes, the police committee, we have been busy. Our mayor let everyone know about our upcoming captain meeting. That's going to be the 21st of this month. And yes, we do encourage you all, if you're interested in participating as a block captain, or just want to give us some good ideas. But moving on to police regionalization. So January 23rd of this year, we held a public meeting with our residents to discuss the topic of police regionalization. What is police regionalization? Why is it that we are exploring police regionalization? And we are exploring it because of the difficulty that we've been experiencing with police staffing. And also, we're considering it in an effort to improve police staffing. So currently, the Borough of Swissvale has an ongoing contract with the Braddock Hills community, where we provide police services on the weekend to their community. In light of our existing relationship with the Braddock Hills community, its small parameters and the similarities between the Braddock Hills community and the Swissvale community, we met with the Braddock Hills Police Department police committee on May 31st of this year, just to discuss exploring possible regionalization. We have not gone into any sort of agreements or decisions. They are just equally experiencing the same issues that we are, and to discuss the exploring regionalizing together. The elected officials, our police chiefs, and our borough managers, we all understand that police regionalization is a complicated process, and that they, along with our residents and also our business owners, wish to be informed about the police regionalization process. And we all have a lot of questions. So in order to be properly informed, and also to best be able to address the questions that not only we have, but our residents have, and also to anticipate any potential issues that may arise, we believe that it is best to invite the state. And when we say the state, I'm referencing the Department of Community and Economic Development, to provide a study. It'll be a study regarding police regionalization, specifically with our police department and their police department. This study would be conducted by the DCED, and it would provide us with a lot of answers and also guidance in this overall process. Now, please note and please keep in mind that this is only a study. We have not committed at this time, nor have we agreed to any commitment of any sort. This is just a continuation of exploring police regionalization, and also going into understanding all that's involved, but particularly going into that understanding with the Braddock Hills community. But it is not us engaging in a commitment nor an agreement to actually regionalize with them. The mayors, our council members, as well as our police departments and the administration of Swissvale and the Braddock Hills community ask that our residents and our business owners to please be patient with us during this time, and that we, the elected officials, we will continue to keep you informed and updated and included in this process as updates become available. There will be multiple opportunities for public input and discussion prior to any decisions being made, and no final decision will be made without public input. Again, this is only a study just to address answers and to ensure that it is in the best interest for both municipalities at this time. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much for that announcement and the clarity of it, of that no decisions have been made, but we are interested in potentially moving forward just to study, to invite the DCED to investigate this. Ms. Alfonso Wells.
Just on a really positive note, I wanted, and I think I said this last week, I can't really remember, but I probably didn't say it last week. I said it the week before that, but I just wanted to acknowledge that our very own Woodland Hill scholar, Leviticus McGraw-Sapp, won the prestigious Gates Millennium Scholarship. That is like amazing in our community. That is amazing. And I had the pleasure of meeting his mom when I was working the polls on for the primary. And she's just so proud of her son. We're so proud of her son. And I just wanted to send out a big congratulations. That is just so wonderful that a scholar from our own school district hit big, right? So I just wanted to acknowledge Leviticus and his mom and all the hard work that he's doing, and congratulate him on his graduation and that he's heading to college. So congratulations, Leviticus. Congratulations.
Thank you for that announcement, Ms. Alfonso Wells. I had seen that on Facebook, but I didn't realize so that he's a Swissvale resident as well, not just in the school district, but he
I'm not sure he's a Swissvale resident. I know his mom works here in Swissvale.
Gotcha.
And so I'm not exactly sure where he lives. Doesn't matter. He's in my school district. I claim him. I claim him.
Our district will take credit for it. Sounds great. Thank you for that announcement. Are there any other announcements before we adjourn? Yes, go ahead.
I'm so sorry with my last minuteness. This is not an announcement, but this is more so, I guess, for Greg and code enforcement. Can we look into what's going on with Dollar General? Please.
In what fashion?
Greg, they're always closed.
Yeah, they've been closed for the last
Second that.
several weeks. And I know that a lot of people, it's been a real inconvenience for a lot of residents. I don't know what power we have as a borough, but I do echo Ms. Scales' sentiment that it might be beneficial if we can at least go check
We
up
got
and
our
see.
senior towers that's right there. Dollar General is basically our accessibility.
I
And
think
they
they
are
have trouble
always-
getting workers.
They're always closed.
But they're having, from what I could see, I think they have trouble getting workers is part of the problem.
And it seems to be over the summer as well, because it was last summer that it was closed for an extended period of time as well. Yeah, not really sure why, but I see a lot of chatter about that on Facebook, and I hang out in the CVS parking lot sometimes and see folks frustrated.
Yeah,
sorry,
there
that
was
sounded really random. Sorry.
I know there was a lot of issues last year too with trash, garbage, debris, and all their boxes sitting out front and stuff like that. I don't know if I don't think that's still occurring, but probably not if they're never open. So yeah, we'll take a look at that.
If we can just take a look and see if there's anything the borough can do, because it is important for many of our residents. That's sure. Any other announcements? All right. Well, I would love to entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:15 p.m.
Motion to adjourn at 8:15 p.m.
Second.
All right. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good night, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Good night.
Aye.
Good night.